Hello, my friends. Welcome back. It's Nat Walsh. I have a card for you today from products that I'm using from PaperRose. And this little mushroom is called, it's called Mushroom House number 1. I think it was 1. Hang on. Yeah, Mushroom House number 1. I had to check because there's actually a couple. So I think there's about 3 altogether. I'm stamping this down using the premium dye ink from PaperRose. And we're going to stamp this a couple of times. Now, I did need a little bit of extra help right there in the center. I've got a little bit of masking paper here. Sometimes I use just full stick post-it notes, but this is masking paper. And so I've cut all that out. I've left the bottom because it's not going to be a big deal. The next stamp that we've got is the Bird of Paradise. Now I love these flowers. So we're going to do something a little bit different with the coloring of the actual flowers, because obviously if you know Bird of Paradise flowers, and I do have them in my garden, they are orange, they're blue, there's a little bit of red in there, there's all sorts of things. So we're going to stamp this down. I've masked this off with some full stick post-it notes. I've only done little bits and pieces because obviously we have the masking paper for the house is already masked off. Now, you know what I love about masking? What I really, really love about masking is that it looks like a hot mess. I mean, look at that. It is just a mess, right? I've used another type of masking film that I get here in Australia down the bottom just to mask off our ground. So what I'm aiming for is just this little house in the middle of a garden full of birds of paradise. Is the perspective exactly right? No, but I think it's going to turn out pretty amazing. Anyway, but as I said, it looks like a hot mess. It's not until you take the masking papers all off and undo all the masking that you've done when you sort of go, yeah, okay, that really looks really cool. So look at that. It's horrible. It looks terrible. I'm going to be honest. It looks terrible. But okay. Now I've had comments before in classes and things where the masking paper has ripped. You still have to be, even with masking stuff like the clear masking film, you have to be careful still. There's no way around it. You still have to be careful. You can't go to town and just rip that puppy off like you would a Band-Aid. Okay, you still have to be careful. You need to peel it slowly. Now this is sped up. Peel it slowly. And if it's really, really sticky, like a brand new piece of masking film or painter's tape, not so much the blue stuff because I've never had any luck with the blue stuff, but the purple painter's tape, you still need to do it slowly. You still need to do it very flat to the card, and so you're not pulling upwards. When you're pulling upwards, that's where you're going to get more of the ripping. So that's my tip, but I'm still seeing it especially in classes. I'm still seeing it where people have just gone to town and ripped it off like a Band-Aid, and it's just not going to work. Let's get down. I digress. Okay, there's a lot of colouring. Let's be honest. There's a lot of colouring in this. So the leaves, and honestly, I lose some of the leaves and I have to come back to it later on anyway. So I'm going to do these leaves. So the leaves that I've got are G28, YG97 and YG03. Now you can't really see it. Well, I can't really see it too much. Hopefully that settles down. The ground is also the same colours. And as I said, I masked those off so our flowers are just sort of we've given our little card design a little bit of a horizon. I'm going to work back and forth with this. I'm also going to, towards the end, the lighter color, the YG03 and the 67 was not blending in quite, because I don't know, it's a bigger image or something, I don't know, but it wasn't Happy Town. So there's a little bit of tip to tip technique with that right there, just to help soften that down a little bit. With the mound that the house is on, I really wasn't too sure what I was going to do with that, but I will come back through and color those as well a little bit later on. So there's a lot of coloring, and I know that there is a lot of leaves that I've missed, only because I discovered them while I colored other things. But you know, like right there's a leaf that I missed. I've done a little bit of grass in the background and in the foreground. There you go. And that's going through all the three colors, just giving it little tufts, a little bit of flicks here and there. The lighter color, I've given it a couple of extra ones, but you really can't see them terribly well on the video here. But you know, in real life, you can. It's just more like a texture rather than something that really stands out. Okay, so the flowers that I've got now, we've dropped the G28 along the base of, you're going to have to Google Bird of Paradise, because there's no way to explain that puppy. You know, it's hard, but it has like a pod where there's blooms that come out of the top. So the base of the pod and the bottom, well, the underneath part of it, I've done the darker color, so that's a YG67. I've blended that through with the 03. And then I've also, they seem to have a little bit of red going along the top of the pod. That's what we're calling it. I don't know the name of it. I'm sorry, but I don't know the name of it. But that's what I'm going to call it. And then I've used a orange for YR15. You can see there I've got my phone out. You can see my YouTube logo. And just trying to pick the colors. Now, the parts that are coming out of the pod, as I said, I don't know what they're called, but that's what we're going to call it. It's almost like the flower. Even some of them have a bit of blue, but these are super tiny, so we're just going to color them orange. So we've got YR15 for the base of those little sprigs of flower, and Y12. As I said, these flowers, mine have a little bit of blue, but we're not going to get quite that picky. It's not beyond me to do that, but in this situation, we are not. You know, that's what I like to do. Get silly sometimes. Mushroom tops, I had to do them as little toadstools. I don't know. You just have to do them sometimes. We've got R59, R46, and R24. I'm going to show you both these two, and then we're going to jump ahead. I probably should have done it in the reverse and done the main big one, but that's what I did. So never mind. Anywho, that's what I started colouring because I was lost. There's a lot of colouring in this. If you haven't quite tell, there's a lot of colouring. So we're just trying to cut it down for you a little bit because, you know, my experience in my channel so far, because I'm only little. I am growing, thank you very much. But I am very little in the scheme of things, and no one wants to sit there and watch a half an hour long colouring session. So the mushroom bases and even the underneath. Oh, hang on, we'll go to the blue. I did something else there, but I went to the blue. We coloured the little heart in the middle. The windows that we've got B90, 99, 97, 95. Just trying to give a little bit of shadow. Just each one of these windows, well, the top two windows have got shutters. So I'm just trying to use them as a little bit of guide for my shadowing. And there's one window there on the right hand side that has like a lattice work in it, but I'm not even worrying about that. So our mushroom bases and even our underneath, I am using some warm greys. We've got W5, W3, and I will be going down to a W1. I am keeping it relatively simple and that sort of thing because we're coloring white, so I am not coloring sort of the very middle of it. I am going to use you saw there the O. I didn't put the cap down, but I use the O just to lighten up in the center of it because I'm trying to keep that white. I'm trying to do a little bit more darker colors underneath the mushroom caps to provide a sense of shadowing. But I just wanted them a soft, nice, warm grey, basically. And I think I do have to go back through a little bit later on. I know, I'm doing it there. In between my fence pales. I had to colour it. And then there was a lot. If I said there's a lot of colouring, there's a lot. Anyway. Next, we're going to go back through and do our mound of dirt. As I said, the same sort of colouring. I'm going to use my darker colour still on the sides of it, around the top of my rocks there, obviously, and just to give it a little bit of depth. This also blends it in. This is a situation where I actually didn't want it to stand out quite so much as a mound of dirt or a mound of grass, so I'm keeping it the same sort of tones for the grass because it's surrounded by grass. It's surrounded by greenness. So to give it a little bit more unity with the rest of the image. You can do whatever you want, but that's what I chose to do. I've done a lot of flicking on the mound as well to give it a bit of texture. Coming in with our doors and the window shutters is all going to be the same color, a mixture of the E57s, the E55, and down to an E53. So that's I'm going to do a little bit around the rocks. I'm going to do the fencing or the stonework, I should say, on the actual house. I think that's actually I colored that in the warm greys as well, I think. I'm just trying to give it a little bit of texture. The image has a lot of texture already drawn into it. So I'm just keeping it fairly light so you can see that, and it just cuts out a lot of my work, basically. My stonework. The stones are going to be E44, 42 and 40. So it's a very similar, it's a nice warm color. I'm only using a tiny little bit. Can you see that it's those sort of colors? You could have used a warm gray, as I mentioned. You could have even used a couple of the colors that I've used in the door, but that's going to be a little bit lighter, but that's up to you. I am basically putting a line and going through all the same colors with the line of the darker color, and just not really even bothering. I'm not coloring the whole thing. I'm just trying to give it some interest and a little bit of depth. And we've done that around the edge of the door as well. Next. Now, I don't know what these little things are. I'm going to be straightforward. I don't know what they are. So I've labeled it little things on the house. So we've got YR09, YR15, and down to 12. Just to add a little bit of texture to it. We're going to use our cool greys for our little smokestacks. They are C5, C3, and C1. I just found a little bit more colouring I'd missed there. I've got the nesting rectangles here. We're going to go for the larger one. This is an Aussie card base. Now they are a little bit, it's half of an A4. well, it's a folded half of a piece of A4 going down to a, is that 6? I don't know. Our base is a little bit different. I went back and forth with the black, whether having plain white card base or having a matte. Clearly I chose the black card base. I just thought it sort of popped out a little bit more of the color. So we've got all occasions sentiment stack, but we're going to go with this So Extra Black. Now there's lots of bits and pieces in here, but I always pick the I'm Always Here For You, because I thought that was really cute. I'm going to raise it up with a little bit of foam mount, and I'm going to use a T-square ruler just to make sure my sentiment is straight. The last thing that we're really going to do is put a little bit of sparkle down. Now I did glue this base already down. I foam mounted the coloured portion of it, and then we glued down just with some PaperRose liquid, clear liquid glue. So we've now got the liquid sparkle. Now it's very, very runny. So what I've done is I put it on a bit of packing, and it suggests, this is what it suggests, to put it on with a little bit of a paintbrush. So I've done the whole mushroom tops, and you can see that there. Look at that sparkle. That's it. That's my card for today. I will leave the links down below. I hope you're well. Take care. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.